Thank you very much. The icon bucket. I hope it's not rhyming slang. It's genuinely a terrific honor to be here. It's wonderful to be in the same room as all these young, dynamic, contemporary composers and publishers getting awards, and the odd clapped-out old codger joining in is terrific. And I'd like to thank first the Urban Voices Collective and the wonderful Julian for their sensational performances. And I'd like to get the thanks out of the way, but I do mean them. I'd like to thank everybody at BMI, Mike and Phil and Brandon and the team. It's been great honor and great fun to be here tonight. And we also had a very good Chinese lunch on Saturday, which is a sort of bonus. If you get the Icon Award, make sure you insist on a Chinese meal 2 days before. You'll remember your Chinese meal for several days after you have it. It's a terrific pleasure and honor to be in the presence of fellow icons. I'm now an icon, and it may sound corny but true, but I can hardly think of three better fellow icons than I can be connected with than Don Black, who is one of my favorite lyricists. In fact, English theatrical lyrics are Don's speciality. I have a go at it, and then after that we're a bit worried because we need somebody English coming up from behind. So Don and I are doing all we can to encourage this, but we're not encouraging it that strongly because. And then the great Ray Davies. Ray taught me. Ray taught me more about my own country, England, than anybody else could have done. And he approached it from a slightly different background from me. And I can remember when I was trying to be a law student, going into my solicitor's exam in early 1965, and just before I went into the exam, which I failed ignominiously, onto the radio in my dad's car, my father had to be persuaded to tune in to anything other than Radio 4, but on came a song called So Tired of Waiting for You, and I thought, this is perfection, this is as good as it gets, and I'm going into a law exam to try and be a solicitor, and this brilliant group, the Kinks, who already had 2 big hits, and this was an example of the huge variety that Ray could conjure up with different sorts of songs. And then he followed that up with a whole string of beautiful songs about his country and about love. And Ray, you are one of my heroes, and I'm honored to be on the same platform as you. And Van Morrison, it's not quite as dramatic as going into a solicitor's exam, but I was cleaning my dad's car when on comes Them, Here Comes the Night, and that wonderful guitar and that beautiful voice coming through, and I thought, this is one of those records. This was a bit later in 1965. What a great year 65 was, frankly. And listening to Van sing Here Comes the Night, and then when Andrew and I were lucky enough to have a success with Jesus Christ Superstar in America, one of the records that was on the radio all the time on our first ever visit to Los Angeles was Brown Eyed Girl. And I cannot fly into Los Angeles. It sounds like I'm doing it all the time. But every time I fly into Los Angeles, I think of Brown Eyed Girl because that was the big record when I first went to America. So what I'm saying is that it could not be a greater honor for me to be linked with Van and Ray and Don. It's superb. And then to meet Nile Rodgers and to see my old friend Per. I mean, it's just wonderful. I'm deeply, deeply flattered. I'm slightly confused by the record business these days. I don't quite know how it works. When I started out, I think really it's when the Killers said, "Are we human or are we dancer?" That was about the time that I lost it. I thought, I don't quite get what this guy's saying. Great record, don't get me wrong. When I was young, it was, why must I be a teenager in love? That was a question I could answer easily. But Mr. Flowers got me deeply confused. And since then, frankly, it's all been downhill. But I have a 16-year-old daughter, and she clues me in vaguely with what's going on. but I certainly can relate to what Niall was doing on his current hits. Those are the ones that still make as much impact as Marty Wilde and Cliff and Adam Faith and Billy Fury did when I started out. So really, I'm here to thank you all. It's been absolutely wonderful. I thank all the people I've written with, starting with the great Andrew Lloyd Webber, then moving on with Elton John and Bjorn and Benny and Stephen Oliver and Alan Menken, and most recently, young Stuart Brayson, who is here tonight, who wrote From Here to Eternity with me. So I'm still keeping going. I'm still struggling against the odds. And I would like to thank every single one of you for turning up tonight, especially those who performed the song so beautifully, Julian and the Urban Voices Collective. And I once again thank Mike. Thank you so much for making me your icon.